First one was wondering what your argument was.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, hold. Ready?
Yep.
Hello, my name is Paul Frazelle, and I'm here to talk about social media's effect on memory and meaning. Social media distorts memory and personal identity in teenagers by creating false nostalgia, influencing selective recall, and reinforcing unrealistic societal norms, leading to an altered sense of self and collective memory. You might ask, what is false nostalgia? To understand false nostalgia, you must first know what nostalgia is. Johann Norberg states, nostalgia taps into a powerful sentiment, a widespread yearning for the good old days. In Norberg's article, False Nostalgia, he describes its effect as a selective, artificial version of history that distorts reality by showing a glorified past without recognizing its flaws. Our brains naturally recall certain details while ignoring others. The internet and media reinforces this by having instant access over lots of knowledge. An effect to help explain this is the Google effect. The Google effect explains the tendency to forget information that can be easily searched online. Research suggests reliance on digital platforms weakens long-term memory and recallability, as IJIP points out. False nostalgia and its impact on memory. False nostalgia occurs when social media selectively presents past experiences, making them seem better or worse than they actually were. Its impacts consist of selective recall, or what one automatically thinks of and feels about an event or memory. Idealized experiences. Social media filters out negative aspects, reinforcing unrealistic memories. As authors Perez and Torres point out, a major consequence that research proves of teens using social media platforms to fit the trends, style, and social comparison impacts their self-esteem and identity development. Finally, collective memory is influenced by the way media presents the past, which determines how the public remembers it. What is selective memory? Selective memory is when our brains naturally recall certain details while ignoring others, such as selective exposure, exaggerated memories, and emotional bias. Social media amplifies this effect by repeatedly exposing users to idealized versions of past events. Moreover, selective recall is where the repetition of these fake moments make them seem more important or significant than they actually were. Another effect of these posts is the sense of nostalgia they sometimes carry, which makes viewers have emotional bias when the event is brought up. Emotional bias makes users falsely associate with exaggerated feelings of past events. More on the psychological toll of curated content, a 2018 study of 10,904 14-year-olds found an increased risk of mental health issues in teens who use social media more than 3 hours a day, which I'm sure most of us do. As Dr. Aminuddin states, so much of what happens during pre-adolescence and adolescence is related to identity formation, which proves the importance of how excessive social media use is directly relates to increased anxiety and depression in adolescence. This poses dangerous mental health risks. Now, there are many ways to be mindful of your use of social media to avoid the negative aspects. Here are some things that you can do. Firstly, you can limit your time spent on devices, which will limit scrolling, consuming biased media, and prioritize real-world activities. Another key method to keep in mind is fact-checking before sharing. Verify sources to prevent spreading misinformation. Question exaggerated or biased portrayals of events. This is something that you can do in school and home, or just if you see a piece of information on social media that you're not too sure about before you repost. Lastly, if you strengthen real-world connections for healthier social engagement, you will recognize that online validation does not define self-worth. It's my works cited. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about your project. I'm wondering, thinking back on the whole thing, what part of the process did you find the most challenging?
The most challenging part of this process, this research process, was probably coming to terms with myself about how much I use social media and how much I'm susceptible to these effects, and realizing that these effects come up in my daily life and what I believe is a lot different than what it should be. Because for example, I looked at the New York Times one morning because my dad likes to read the paper at the table, and I saw an article about Gaza, and online, like later that day, I'd seen like a repost from it, and it was just like it twisted the words and everything, and a lot of people liked it, and it made me really realize how much misinformation and fabricated information appears online that we don't really see or understand.
Yeah, that speaks to, but I'm going to ask you my second question anyway. It speaks to what I was wondering about your personal experience. How did your personal experience of social media and your use of social media and how you interact with it change as you learned about this topic?
So for instance, personally, I deleted TikTok off my phone because I found a lot of misinformation on there, and I found myself unconsciously just comparing myself to others and the experiences they have in their lives. And it made me realize that self-validation or comparing yourself to others does not determine your self-worth, as I said in the slides. And it changed how I felt about myself and how I viewed others and the purpose and motive behind posting certain things.
Thank you very much.